This conference will now be recorded.
Okay guys, now let us start the today's session. So in the today's session, as I told you yesterday, we are going to discuss a new concept called recovery scenarios and cleanup scenarios. So yesterday's class, we have discussed about the concept of business parameters and how it is used it on the libraries and reusable text blocks. From in today's class, we will be learning about recovery scenarios. So what is this recovery scenarios? Why we need to use these recovery scenarios, and where do we create these recovery scenarios, and how do we create these recovery scenarios is what we are going to learn today, right? To do that, actually, I'm just opening the notepad, and the concept of scenarios and cleanup scenarios. Yes. Now, first of all, these are two. Do not think from the point of view that these are two different concepts. Yes, these are different concepts, but these are interlinked to each other. So first of all, we will learn one after the other. So first of all, we'll try to cover about recovery scenarios, and then we will learn about cleanup scenarios. So first of all, what is this recovery scenarios? Before explaining you about these recovery scenarios, have you heard the concept of exceptional handling? Anyone?
Yes, Madhav, in PLSQL it is there.
Yes. So basically, in another scripting languages or in another programming languages, basically there is a concept called exceptional handling. So even in Tosca, we have the same concept called exceptional handling, but the name of the concept exceptional handling is called as the recovery scenarios. So I would also say that the recovery scenarios can also be called as exceptional handling. So first of all, what is this exceptional handling, right? See, basically when you're trying to execute test cases or automate or script or code any particular functionality using any other scripting language, basically what is an exception? Some error which is not expected and which is out of the box, which you do not expect on a regular basis. So these are called as an exceptions. You will say, right, this is an exceptional case, means this has happened unexpectedly and which is out of the scope. You are not aware of that kind of particular issue. Basically those kind of errors or those kind of situations which happens unexpectedly and which you are not aware of and which is out of scope or out of the box of your functionality in the application, basically these are called as an exceptions. Now, when such exceptions are happening to your test cases, now let us talk from TOSCA point of view. We are automating a few test cases, and suddenly, if there is any exception occurring to your test case, what you will do basically? See, if you don't do anything, what happens ultimately? Your test cases are going to be failed. So, in order to overcome this issue, means when some exceptions are happening to your test cases, what you need to do, you need to handle them. Handling of exceptional situations in Tosca is called as a recovery scenarios. Now, what are those exceptions? How do you handle that? And what is this recovery scenario? Now we will try to understand. So now first of all, we will try to learn about the definition of the recovery scenario. I will say that recovery scenario is a group or collection of test steps which will be executed by TOSCA when some exception occurs during execution of the test cases. So basically, recovery scenarios are nothing but a group or a collection of test steps, right? Which will be executed by TOSCA when some exception occurs during the execution of your test case. Now, if I want to, this is the basic definition of the recovery scenarios. But if I want to give a complete and detailed explanation of this definition, I need to break down this definition into three parts. So the first part is recovery scenario is group or collection of test steps. What is this first part saying? This first part is looking similar to the definition of a library, right? So library is a group or collection of test steps, but they are reusable test steps. But here it is a just group or collection of test steps. Now you can ask me, Madhav, what kind of test steps do we need to place in a recovery scenario? So to answer that question, basically what I'll do is once I explain the complete definition, then based upon the situation, based upon the what kind of error we have faced, we need to design that kind of test steps in our recovery scenarios. So this is the first part of the definition. Now the second part of the definition is which will be executed by TOSCA, right? I told that I will not execute them. I told that Tosca will be executing, right? Now you can ask me, Mother, how come Tosca will know that it should execute? So what I'll do is basically, as I told you, I am just dividing this into three different parts. The first part we will be seeing how we will be designing, but what is the second part which will be executed by Tosca means you need to, there are some prerequisites, means you need to do some prerequisites or settings to make sure that your recovery scenarios are working when some error is happening. Now what is an exception occurs during the execution of your test cases means you are scripting few test cases, you are developing few test cases. When you developed the test cases and you completed them, and when you are executing them means during the execution. For example, till now we have developed so many test cases, right? If you can have a brief look, we have developed few test cases. Let us consider. Now, when you are executing those test cases, during the middle of the execution, when some exception occurs, as I told you, what is an exception? Exception is an error. What is that error? Basically, it is an unexpected error. Means when you are executing your test cases and during the execution, in the middle of the execution, if you see any unexpected errors, then TOSCA should execute your recovery scenarios. It is a very simple and straightforward definition. You have built some test cases, and during the execution of your test cases, in between the middle of the execution, when some unexpected errors are happening, which you are not aware of and which are out of the scope for you, then what will happen? Basically, your test cases will fail. So instead of your test cases getting failed, then you need to create some recovery scenarios, and those recovery scenarios will be called by TOSCA whenever some unexpected errors are happening during the middle of the execution, right? These are the three different breakdowns I have done to explain you the definition of the recovery scenarios. Is the definition clear for everyone?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Fine. Now based upon this definition, whatever we have learned now, can I also call this recovery scenarios as protection or backup to my test cases? I could say, right? So why I'm creating these recovery scenarios? These recovery scenarios are getting created and are called by TOSCA when some unexpected errors are happening. Why this you are calling? Instead of making your test cases fail, see, you are spending a lot of time to understand the functionality and building the test cases, providing the inputs and execution. Means almost you have spent some, let us consider that you have spent some 10 to 15 days of time. But when you are executing, suddenly there is some unexpected error. All your work, what you have spent and efforts for the past 15 days will be wasted for some time. I won't say it will be wasted for completely, until and unless you fix that, it will be wasted. So instead of that, what you need to do, you are getting a protection to your test cases, like a kind of backup to your test cases. When your test cases are facing some issue which is not expected, then TOSCA will be calling these recovery scenarios, and it will try to handle that errors which are happening unexpectedly. That is why I call them, it is a protection or a backup to my test cases. I can also call them as an exceptional handling, means handling the unexpected errors which are happening during the middle of the execution by creating some recovery scenarios. Right? Is the introduction part clear to everyone about what is recovery scenarios and why we will be using these recovery scenarios?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, what I will be doing, when you see the definition, you might have understood that group or collection of test steps. Okay. At some point or the other time, I will be creating the test steps. That is fine. And you know this. Now, let us try to understand more what are these prerequisites, what settings I need to do. Correct, right? How come TOSCA will know that it should execute the recovery scenarios? Means, as I told, I need to do some prerequisites and settings, right? What are those settings I will be doing, we'll see now. And as well as we will also see what are these unexpected errors, right? Now basically, if I want to tell something about unexpected error or exceptions, can anyone tell me what are expected errors? Fine. As part of the definition, I am saying when some unexpected errors are happening, my task recovery scenarios will come into picture. Then what will happen when some expected errors are happening? Then what do you mean exactly by expected errors? Can anyone tell me what are the expected errors?
Maybe syntax errors.
Exactly. So the naming convention itself is saying expected errors, means being a humans, see, we might commit mistakes at some point or the other time. See, you might be a proficient or an expert in so and so particular language or whatever it might be, but some point or the other time we will commit some silly mistakes. So these are expected. As humans, we knew this, but we have a chance to correct them. So basically, what are these expected errors? As we've discussed, like there might be an issue with the syntax that I'm trying to write, or there might be an issue with the action mode, means I have not used the proper action mode, or there might be an input issue with the input, means for suppose there is a text box, I need to give some input, right? Or there is a radio button. What is the action only that I can perform on the radio button or the checkbox? I can only click them. I can't do any other operation. If I try to give some value, I mean, if I give Madhav as an input to a radio button, will it accept? No, it won't accept, because it will accept only click. See, that's what, when you make some syntax errors or input errors or kind of any action mode differences or any kind of data errors. Data means like what exactly I'm trying to say. We have used some random regular expressions, or we have used some random text to pass and input values to some particular controls. But as an example, can I pass only a numerical value to a name? No, I can't pass a numerical value only to a name, because name, it is an alphanumeric, or user ID, it is an alphanumeric. So I need to understand how the application responds to me, and based upon that, I need to provide my inputs. So sometimes I might commit these mistakes, even by knowing or without knowing. These silly mistakes would be made. So now, how do you correct these silly mistakes? See, even if you made a mistake, obviously your test case will fail. How you will come to know that you have made a mistake? Once your test case is getting failed, then only you will come to know that you are making some mistake. Now, what you need to do when some unexpected errors are happening? Okay, my syntax is wrong. My verification has failed. This control is not scanned properly. I need to scan this control correctly. So either by scanning the new module, or by rescanning, or by changing the inputs, or by changing the syntaxes, you will try to correct this expected errors. Like you can see, no matching tab was found, more than one control was found, right? These are the basic kind of errors which we expected. right? Now, what are these unexpected errors? Now, what are these unexpected errors basically? When you are exit, that's what I'm saying. Unexpected errors that also occurs during the middle of the execution. What is this suddenly happening? And this unexpected error suddenly it is happening only today. Again, tomorrow, your test cases are working normally, but only let us assume that issue is happening only for today. Again, from tomorrow, your test cases are working fine as it is like how it worked day before yesterday or yesterday. The issue is only today, but you can't skip, right? It might happen again or it might not happen again. That's what I'm saying. It is an unexpected thing. So basically, what are these unexpected errors? Like if you are facing any pop-ups, right? If you are facing any pop-ups during the middle of the execution, or if you face any dialog boxes, right? Or if there is any validation or I could say verification errors. I mean, till yesterday the verifications were working fine. You mean to say, till yesterday, the verification point, whatever you have mentioned, those were working fine. But today, suddenly the control has been escaped. I mean, escaped in the sense from the application point of view, it is been missed. I mean, the control has been replicated with some other control or been replaced with some other control, or the content has been changed, which is unexpected to you, right? When these kind of unexpected situations are happening during the middle of the execution, then what you will do? Instead of making your test cases fail, you are going to design these recovery scenarios and you will be asking TOSCA to execute those recovery scenarios to protect your test cases, right? Like you might have seen, right? Basically, when we are accessing the normal e-commerce applications like Amazon or e-commerce applications like Amazon, Myntra, Flipkart, whatever it might be, IRCTC, e-commerce applications, basically during some festival sale or a big billion days or whatever it might be, you will see some sudden pop-ups on the application, right? You might have opened the application in a desktop. Suddenly, what happens as soon as you open the application, a pop-up might come which is completely occupying the page and saying that flash sale or big billion days is on. The sale will end and it is starting on so and so dates. Do you want to click on this? Do you want to proceed further or credit card offers? Please proceed. This kind of pop-ups or dialog boxes might happen, right? Which is unexpected. So when these are things are happening, you are which is not expecting yesterday, right? Yesterday these pop-ups or dialog boxes were not there in the application, so you are executing it properly. But today what happens? Suddenly this is coming and which is not in the scope for you, so the test cases will start getting failed. So even at any point of time, first of all you need to understand why we are discussing all these things. Means we are discussing all these things only to make sure even in all the worst situations you need to make sure that our test cases are working fine. That is the only important thing that we need to think from an automation point of view, right? Now, these are the unexpected errors. Now, we have got some clarity about what are expected errors and what are these unexpected errors. And now it's time to see what are these prerequisites or call them as settings to do or settings required to execute the recovery scenarios. So what are these? So in order to explain these prerequisites and settings, what I'll do is I'll go back to this TOSCA and I'll click on please be very attentive. Why? Because there might be an interview question even on this. What are the prerequisites or settings that you will do in order to make your recovery scenarios execute? Right? You need to answer them. Simply you can't say I will make some changes in the settings. Then he will ask you where you will make the changes. So you need to be very precise enough. So click on this project, click on the settings. Already we have already gone to the settings to change the synchronization. Now let us see for recovery scenarios. Now the settings has opened. The same folder we have got T box, and under this folder T box you have a folder called recovery. Right? Now what is the path? They might ask you. I am going to project settings, tbox folder, and under that you have a folder called recovery. Now you have reached to this point. Sorry. Now what we will do is this, I will tell you now. Right, after opening this recovery folder in the settings, now you could see on dialog failure, on exception failure, on verification failure. Means these are the different kind of errors what TOSCA can handle. Expecting means these are the different kind of unexpected things, like if there is any dialog boxes or pop-up boxes coming on the application, if any exceptions are happening or any verification failures are happening during the middle of the execution. Now TOSCA is asking, what should I do? You are a human. TOSCA is a tool. So TOSCA will act whatever you say. So no, TOSCA is giving you an option, boss, what to do when these are things are happening in the application. That's what you can see the description. Shows what TOSCA should do in case of a dialog failure, in case of an exception, in case of an verification. Means TOSCA is asking you, right? Now it is up to your turn. You need to decide what you want to do with this TOSCA when some errors are happening. Now actually there are different values. Now can you see here, there is a drop down. In this drop down you can see continue, execute next case, and recover. These are the three different things, right? Why I'm showing you is actually there are three possible values. The three possible options that the user can do is continue, execute next test case, or recover. Now what is the meaning of all these three things is, first of all let us think and talk about this continue. Now as I told you, you have built the test cases, you are executing them. Now you are in the middle of the execution. Suddenly some unexpected error happened. What is that unexpected error? Exception, dialog boxes. Suddenly a dialog boxes occurred in the page. So now what will happen? I'll try to show you a small example. This is the demo web shop page, right? Now actually if I want to click on the search, what should I do? I need to give some input here and I need to click on search. But I will try to show you some dialog box here. If I click directly on the search, what will happen? Tosca is giving some dialog box for me, asking to please enter some search keyword. Forget about that. If I enter some value and click on search, it will accept it. But to show you that how a dialog box looks like, simply I have tried to click on the search button. Now what has happened? Tosca is showing you some dialog box saying, please enter some search keyword. Now, because of this, for example, let us consider the same kind of situation is happening during the execution. Now, after opening the URL, what is the first step that you want to do? You want to click on register. But are you able to? Now, Tosca is trying to see, first URL will be opened, then Tosca will click on register. Suddenly, let us consider this has happened automatically. Right now I have clicked on this, but you consider that this has happened automatically. Now after opening the URL, I want to click on register. Where is this register? Tosca is trying to click on this register control, but because of this dialog box, which is an unexpected error happened. So will your test case will click on register? No, because it is not clicking on register, your test case will fail saying that register control could not be found. Now what to do when this kind of situations are happening? Now you are asking Tosca to continue. Continue means what will happen? It will fail. That's it. And if the same kind of thing is happening, then you set the value of execute the next test case, then what will happen? Your current test case will fail there and your next test case will start getting executed. Why? Because you might run 20 or 30 test cases at a single point of time. Or suppose if your issue or your test case is failing at the fifth test case, you cannot stop your execution only at the fifth test case due to some issue, right? First of all, let us complete all these things. Let us complete all these 20 and then see what is the fifth test case having some issue. Then if you set the value to execute the next test case, then what will happen is the current test case will get failed there and it will stop there and it will go and start executing the next test case. Are the two options useful for you? Why we are learning this concept of recovery scenarios? To protect and not to fail your test cases. But if you use either continue or execute next test case, obviously they will be failed. Then what is the point of learning recovery scenarios? Without recovery scenarios also you can work as usually. But when you want to make sure that your test cases are not getting failed when some unexpected errors are happening, you need to set the value to recover. So the most important thing is all the different kind of unexpected errors should be set to the value called recover. Means now you are saying to Tosca, boss, please recover my test case. What on verification failure? When some any failures are happening, please try to recover my test case. Now, because you set this value to recover, now whatever scenarios you create, till now we have not created any recovery scenarios. Now, because you set this value to recover, whatever recovery scenarios you create, that will be executed by Tosca when some these errors are happening. Right? Are you getting my point, guys? Is it clear? So what we are gonna do after going to the settings, what we need to do? Set the value to recover at all errors to make sure our recovery scenarios will work. Now, see, someone can understand the concept of recovery scenarios today itself. Few people might take time to tomorrow, or few people might learn in another 1 week. But forget about at what point you are learning, but learn any point of time. But do not forget to learn about these settings. Even you might be master in creating the recovery scenarios, but if you forget to change this value in the settings, whatever recovery scenarios you create, will it work? No. This is a prerequisite. This is a basic step. Even if you create or do not create, you need to change this value. Otherwise, whatever you create, it will not work. Right? I also committed the same kind of mistake. I do not know that these settings would be there in 2016-17. I was just creating these recovery scenarios. I was just executing that. But my test cases are still getting failed. There was no one to help me out at that point of time in 2016. Right? And there was no such documentation available like now. The version which I used to use is TOSCA version 9. Documentation would be very less. Issues were very less. Usage people were very less. Even the YouTube videos, you won't even imagine. Complete YouTube contains only 6 videos on Tosca. Now, everyone is saying videos, everyone is teaching. YouTube itself, Tricentis itself has some 200, 300 videos, right? So, to learn these settings, almost it took me 10 to 15 days of time. You won't believe me. Only to understand this small concept, I tried, and at last, after 15 days, I came to know that this silly mistake I have done in order to make my recovery scenarios work. So I want all you guys not to make all such kind of silly mistakes. So my course content is always designed in such a way that no one should face any issue while they're working in the real time. Right? You might learn the recovery scenarios even after a month. That is not a problem. But you should know how to do that. My job is only to teach you how, what, where, and when. That's it. Now it is up to your brain. Use it at all the situations and get the job done. That is the only thing we'll do. Fine. Let us not deviate more. Now these are the prerequisites, and we have seen three. Now you can ask me, Mother, what is this next thing? Test case retry, test step retry, test step value retry. What is this retry? Okay, let us talk something. Now, possibly at what places your error might come. Now, till now we have discussed error, unexpected error, settings, TOSCA will execute, recovery scenarios, all these things. But where might my error come? If it is an unexpected thing, my error might come at any point, right? At any point in the sense, what I am developing in Tosca, I am developing the test case. What is my test case containing? Test steps, correct? And what is my test steps containing? Values. Means what is the hierarchy? Test case, test step values. Means My error might occur at the test case level. Test case level means you are trying to open a URL, but if the URL is not opening or the URL has opened, retry means at which place you want to retry means you are executing, unexpected error came, now you want to handle that. So you set the value to recover and you will design the recovery scenarios. So they will execute. But let us assume that if they are not working for the first time, simple logic. I opened the application and I want to click on this register, but register is not visible. So if the register is not visible, what should I do? First of all, I need to handle this unexpected dialog box. To handle this, what should I do? I need to click on this OK. If I click on OK, I'm able to say register. Now I can continue with my execution. But let us assume that you are even after you click on OK, if you are clicking on OK and it is working fine, your job is done. But what happens if even after clicking on OK for the first time, if it is not closing? Sometimes we might have come across, right? You want to close a dialog box or a pop-up, but first time it won't close, right? What we will do then? We will close the application, we will refresh the page, we will do some nonsense kind of stuff, right? Now, those nonsense kind of stuff also you need to do in this TOSCA, right? If it is not working for the first time, what you will do? You will again try for the next time, right? So that is what you are going to say to Tosca. When it is failing on the test case level, what is the maximum number of recovery attempts? Tosca itself is asking, boss, if I am unable to recover them for the first time, what should I do? How many times or how many options you are giving it to me so that I can try? If you give only one, I will try for first time. If it is working, fine. But if it is not working for the first time, what you will do? Again, creating of your recovery scenarios itself is to protect them. But if it is not working, again all your work will be gone in vain, right? So give some chance, give some attempts to Tosca. So that what will happen, Tosca will also have some freedom to try for the second time if it is not working. So it is up to your convenience. You can give any values over here, right? There is no mandatory that you need to give only one, two, three. I can give two, four, five also. I can just give five as well. Means what I am saying to Tosca is, boss, you have a maximum chances of five when there is any error. What kind of error? Any of these three possible errors happening on the value. What is a value? Means when you are trying to give some input in the application, like this is a value, right? For example, if there is any error happening when I'm trying to, this is a test step value, I'm trying to provide my input. When I'm trying to provide my input, if there is any pop-up happened, what should I do? I need to handle that, and I need to again rerun the same step, right? So if the test step level or a test step value level or a test case level, I'm giving you some maximum number of chances. So if it is not working for the first time, please retry for the second time. If it is not working for second time, please go for third time. Now you can ask me a question. For example, Madhav, we have given 5 attempts, right? What if it is successful in first attempt? The remaining 4 attempts, it will not go. Like the action mode wait on. If it is working in the second attempt, the remaining 3 attempts will not be wasted. It will continue forward. You are only just giving a chance, right? Simple logic. We might have completed that graduation engineering, right? Few people or many people, like even outside, I'm not specifically mentioning you guys, it is not to mock you, but few people might have written the backlogs, supplementary exams. Is there any restriction that you need to write only the supplementary only once? No, you can write n number of times till you complete your fourth year. After fourth year, you will be getting some additional certificate, and even after completing fourth year, again engineering universities have given 5 years of time to complete all the subjects. After that, your degree is no longer valid. So the same kind of, I'm just trying to correlate, it is not such kind of thing pointing anyone, right? Only to give some chances to Tosca if it is not working. But if you are passing your exam in the first attempt, will you go for supplementary? No, it is the same kind of thing. So these are the basic prerequisites that each and everyone should know, that they need to work upon the recovery scenarios. Are the prerequisites clear for everyone?
Okay, sir.
Yes, Madhav.
What about others?
Yes,
Yes,
Madhav.
Madhav. Yes, Madhav.
Yes.
Yes, Madhav.
Okay, thank you. See, this theoretical part itself on these recovery scenarios is vast. See, almost now 40 minutes of time, I was just explaining you only the background of recovery scenarios. Till now, I haven't shown you where I will create and how I will create, right? Ultimately, you need to learn that. But I'm just showing you what is recovery scenarios, why recovery scenarios, and possible of the prerequisites and settings. Right now, we have completed what is recovery scenario, why we need to do all these recovery scenarios, and what are these prerequisites and settings. Now it is time to learn where do I create these recovery scenarios. So absolutely, I'm just closing the settings section now. After closing the settings section, I'm just navigating back to this TOSCA. So what I'm saying, if you see the definition, what I'm saying, recovery scenario is a collection of test steps. Again, if it is a collection of test steps and my test steps are already being present in the test case section, so obviously I'm going to create my recovery scenarios in the test case section itself. Why I'm specifically mentioning this point is sometimes some silly interviewers, what they will do is they will ask you, can we create a recovery scenario in modules? There should be some meaningful question also, right? So there should be some, at that point of time, you need to give a proper explanation. See, boss, my basic definition of recovery scenario itself is a collection of test steps which will be executed by TOSCA. Exactly where my test steps are present, my test steps are present in a test cases. Absolutely where my test cases are getting created in the test case section. So I will be creating my recovery scenarios in the test case section. So you need to be very precise with the answer, and it should be a tight answer for them. That's it, so that no cross question would be again asked on front of you, right? Now in this test case section, where do I create a recovery scenarios? Now it is the time. See, I can create a recovery scenarios. Here, people might confuse you. Where to create recovery scenarios? On what level to create a recovery scenarios? Right? You can create a recovery scenario on a folder level. Are you understanding? If I create a recovery scenario on this folder level, whatever I mean, it will be applicable to all the test cases, right? Because if all your test cases are facing same kind of error, then you can create recovery scenarios on the root folder. But as an example, only if a group of test cases, like let us say there are 4 test cases, only if this group of test cases are facing unexpected error, I can also create specifically to these subfolders. Or else only if this single test case is also facing an unexpected error. Remaining all the test cases are working fine, no problem in that. Only these things are facing errors. So what you will do, you can also create the recovery scenarios at the test case level. Now what are the levels, or where exactly you will be creating these recovery scenarios? I can create the recovery scenarios on folder level, or I can also create them on test case level. Means I can create a test case level, or I can create on group of test cases also. I can create this recovery scenarios. I will try to show you. Right now, how do I create on this root folder? Just give a right click there, else you have an option at the last called recovery scenario collection. I'm just clicking on this recovery scenario collection. Can you see recovery scenarios has been created? This is only a just folder. This is only just a recovery scenario collection folder. Now inside this you need to place all your recovery scenarios. Right now, how I will place all these recovery scenarios is, again, just give a right click. You can see this plus icon, create recovery scenario. Right now, this is actually your recovery scenario. But what is your recovery scenario definition? It is a collection of test steps, right? Now again, like yesterday library, you need to place some test steps there. Like yesterday you placed the reusable test steps in the library. Today you need to place which steps, based upon the error, based upon which error you have faced, and how can you solve that kind of test step you can place. Are you getting my point? Simple logic. Even library also contains the steps, but what are the steps which are reusable, which can be used across other test cases? Now you are trying to protect the test cases. Now what are these test steps basically? These test steps you will decide on basis of the error, means what exact error you have faced. On that you will be trying to create the step. For example, as we have already seen that there is some dialog box happening. Now my test step will be basically to handle this, correct? This is the situation, this is an error for me, and I want to handle this. If I want to handle this, what should I do? So I need to design a test step, right? So what is that basically is, so that's what I'm saying. In order to create or design the test steps for recovery scenario, it will be precise to the error. So this is the error now which I'm facing. So I'll need to handle this. How I'll handle this? I need to click on OK, right? If I need to click on OK, do I need to scan this? So scanning always will be last option for you. But also try when there is some pop-ups or any dialog boxes which are happening on the test cases or on the application, uh, try to use the keyboard commands. We might have seen, right? What happens is, like, sometimes if there is any pop-up or a dialog box which is happening on the application, if we press escape button, if we press enter button, or if we refresh the page, if we refresh the page, sometimes the pop-ups will go. Or if you press escape button or enter button, this pop-ups or dialog boxes will be closed. So instead of scanning this OK button or submit button in the pop-ups immediately, try to use the keyboard commands first. If the keyboard commands are not working, then go for scanning the application, right? So now, if I now see, okay, this pop-up has come, right? Dialog box. I'm not doing anything. See my cursor, I'm just placing it here. Okay, now I'm just pressing escape on my keyboard. See, that has been closed. Now because that has closed, now Tosca is able to see the register control, right? It is able to see the register. Now it can click and go forward. Same thing. Now I'll try to press enter. Enter is also working. Now again I'll try to refresh the page. See, even if I refresh the page, this pop-up or dialog box has gone. Means instead of scanning immediately, try to check by passing some keyboard commands. If these keyboard commands are working fine, then what you can do? Absolutely, you can try and design that steps. Now, what is the standard module that we use in order to send some keyboard commands to Tosca? Can you guess?
Revox
I,
selfies.
Exactly, we have already discussed this. If you want to send some keyboard commands or keyboard keys to Tosca, we have a standard module called tbox send keys. So it is a simple thing. Like yesterday, as I shown you in the library, how to add a test step, either by giving a right click, search and add the test step, and type whatever the module you want. You have got tbox send keys, right? Add that. Now see, tbox send keys. The second way of doing is, already if you know where exactly your T-box N keys is there, my T-box N keys is here. If it is already there here, I can also drag this and I can place it in my recovery scenarios. So it is up to your convenience, guys. That's what I'm saying. There is no predefined method again. It is up to your convenience. How do you want to do this? So T-box N keys. Now, what is the caption? Already we have learned about T-box N keys, right? What is the caption? Means title of the page. It is demo web shop, right? So instead I'll just give sorry, demo star. And then what is the keyboard command that I want to give? I want to give some, like I told you, either do by escape or do by enter or refresh the page. So first of all, let us do by clicking on escape. How? What is the syntax of escape? Curly brace open, just start typing esc. Can you see? Escape. escape, curly brackets close. Right. Now what you are passing some keyboard commands, this is for escape. Now just try executing this and see what is going to happen. Okay. Running it in the scratch book. I'm just trying to execute that whether it will be working or not. Let us see. Oh, it has got failed. Why? Let me check. Keys has to be an input value. So what is the action mode that I have used? It is an input. Key has to be an input value. Okay, I got it here. So whenever you send some keyboard commands, you need to enclose that in a double quotes. Please remember. Now try running this and see. Can you see? It has passed. Escape has been closed. Please enclose that in a keys were successful sent. When you're trying to send some keys, please enclose that in a double quotes. Now we'll try to do the same thing. We'll try for enter. See, it is working for escape. You can use this. We'll also try for enter whether it will work or not. So I'm just giving demo star. And what is the enter syntax? Curly brace open, ENT. Can you see here enter? Can you see there is also a shortcut enter or tilt symbol? You can see here tilt. I'll show you that as well. Sorry, enter or tilt symbol. As I told you, please enclose that in the double quotes. Now I'll just try to execute this. See, it has got close. Right now, as I told you, there is an alternative method, tilt symbol, tilt. Like you can use this. Where is that on my keyboard? Yeah, this one, not this, man. Yeah, this one. Can you see this? This is there on my keyboard, tilt symbol. I can also run this. It will also work. Either enter directly or tilt symbol. It is a shortcut. See, it is working. Now we'll also try for refreshing the page. How do you refresh the page, guys? Basically,
F5.
correct. So if you want to refresh the page, what I will do, just give me a second, guys. I'll just come back. Just give me a moment. I'm just getting a call. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys, I'm back. So what exactly I'm saying? If you want to refresh the page, you will be sending some keyboard commands. What is that? And as I told you, please enclose this in a double quotes. And syntax for refreshing the pages, curly brace open, F5, right? Yep. Now can you see? You can see all the commands there. Whatever the command you want to use, you can just use F5 and close it. That's it. It should be enclosed in a double quote. See now whether it is working or not. Right? It's working. So now that's what I told you. So first try whether your error will be removed or you can overcome that by doing some send keys stuff if you want to overcome. If that is working, then you can do and you can execute. Now see the justification of the definition is or not. My recovery scenario is a group or collection of test steps which will be executed by TOSCA. How the TOSCA will know that I should execute recovery scenarios? Because you changed some settings in the prerequisites in the settings. Now TOSCA is aware that I need to call or I need to invoke the recovery scenarios when some unexpected errors are happening during the middle of the execution, right? Is it clear for everyone about what is recovery scenarios, why we will be using recovery scenarios, where we will create, and how we will create? Now we have created on the root folder, means if each and every test case, I mean these recovery scenarios are applicable to all the test cases. Now as I told you, I can also create them on a individual test case. Like this is for example, this test case is only facing issue, I want to create a recovery scenario only for this. I can create, can you see? I can create. There is no problem in creating. See, it's the same thing. Means this recovery scenarios, whatever creating, it will be applicable only when this test case is facing an issue. It can't be applicable for others. But why we will be creating on a root level? Because it can be applicable to all the test cases at any one point of the time. One or the other test case will face the issue, right? So we will basically create it on the root level. Is it understood and clear for everyone?
Yes,
Sir.
sir.
And yes, Madhu, and one more
Yes,
thing I
sir.
have doubt.
Yes, please.
Hello. So we are seeing as of now our live cases errors, right? So in previous existing scenarios we can't see, we can't able to see in
What do
previous
you mean?
projects.
What do you mean by previous project here? Previous.
So now we are going to live. So we are getting to a new project where testing to we are able to doing the errors, right. So now we are going to debug some settings. We are doing to recover the all the whatever we
Hmm.
are facing to issues, right. So
Hmm.
previous projects and existing employees doing, right. They are already saving and they for files and everything, right. That's and all we can't able to see in this debox.
క్వశ్చన్ ఎవరికైనా అర్థమైందా?
నా క్వశ్చన్ ఏంటంటే అన్న, యాక్చువల్గా ఇప్పుడు మనం లైవ్ ప్రాజెక్ట్ చేస్తున్నాం కదా. సో
Hmm.
అవి ఎర్రర్స్ వస్తే మనం ఇక్కడ టీ బాక్స్లోకి వెళ్ళి ప్రాజెక్ట్ అన్ని చెక్ చేస్తాం రికవరీలోకి వెళ్ళి. అలాగే అట్ ద సేమ్ టైం ఆల్రెడీ ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ ప్రాజెక్ట్స్ ఉంటాయి కదా, వాటిలో కూడా రికవరీ ఏమైనా ఎర్రర్స్ ఉంటే అవి
ఉంటాయి.
ఏమైనా చెక్ చే దానికి
అవి
ఏమైనా
ఎలా
ఆప్షన్
చెక్
ఏమైనా ఉందా
చేస్తావు?
అంటే?
సింపుల్ లాజిక్ అబ్బా, ఒక పాయింట్ విను. నువ్వేం చెప్తున్నావు? ఓకే, ఈ ప్రాజెక్ట్ లో ఎర్రర్ వచ్చినప్పుడల్లా నువ్వు సెట్టింగ్స్కి వెళ్ళి టీ బాక్స్ రికవరీలో చేంజ్ చేయవు. ఓన్లీ అన్ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ ఎర్రర్ వచ్చినప్పుడే నువ్వు సెట్టింగ్స్కి వెళ్ళి చేంజ్ చేసుకుంటావు. నీకు అందుకే స్టార్టింగ్లో ఏం చెప్పాను? ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ ఎర్రర్స్ ఇది. ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ ఎర్రర్స్ వచ్చినప్పుడు ఏం చేస్తావు? మనం కరెక్ట్ చేసుకుంటాం. ఇన్పుట్ కానీ సింటాక్స్ కానీ వాల్యూస్ కానీ కరెక్ట్ చేసుకుంటాం. కానీ నా ఇన్పుట్స్ అన్ని కరెక్ట్ ఉన్నాయి, నా వాల్యూస్ సింటాక్సెస్ అన్ని కరెక్ట్ ఉన్నాయి, కానీ ఏదో ఒక అన్ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ ఇష్యూ వల్ల నా టెస్ట్ కేస్ ఫెయిల్ అవుతుంది అంటే నేను ఊరుకోను. అందుకే నేను సెట్టింగ్స్కి వెళ్ళి టీ బాక్స్లో చేంజ్ చేసుకున్నాను. ఫైన్, ఈ ప్రాజెక్ట్కి చేంజ్ చేశాను. ఓకే, నువ్వు ఇంతకుముందు ఇంకో ప్రాజెక్టులు కూడా చేసి ఉంటావు, అక్కడ కూడా ఉంటాయి. నీ క్వశ్చన్ ఏంటి? ఆ ప్రాజెక్ట్లో ఉన్నవి ఇక్కడ యూజ్ చేయాలా, లేకపోతే అక్కడ కూడా ఉన్నవి ఎట్లానా అని ఏంటి నీ క్వశ్చన్ ఎగ్జాక్ట్గా?
అదేనన్నా అది.
ఏంటది?
అంటే ఆ ప్రాజెక్ట్ లో ఉన్నాయి కూడా అట్లా రిపీటెడ్ గా వచ్చాయి అనుకో, సేమ్ ఎర్రర్ కానీ రిపీట్ అయితే అప్పుడు ఎట్లా చేయాలని అని అడుగుతున్నా.
అప్పుడు ఎలా చేయాలి అంటే, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇప్పుడు మీ ఇంట్లో ఒక ఇష్యూ వచ్చింది, మీ ఇంట్లో ఒక ఇష్యూ వచ్చింది అని చెప్పి నా ఇంట్లో అదే ఇష్యూ వస్తే అదే సిచ్యువేషన్ అదే సొల్యూషన్ ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేయాలి అంటే నేనేం చేయాలి? బేసిక్గా ఎగ్జాంపుల్ సింపుల్. మీ ఇంట్లోకి ఇష్యూ వచ్చింది, దాన్ని సాల్వ్ చేసావు, ఆ సొల్యూషన్ నీకు తెలుసు, రైట్? అప్పుడు మీ ఇంట్లో ఇష్యూ జరిగినప్పుడు నేను అక్కడే ఉన్నా, నేను మళ్ళీ మా ఇంట్లో వచ్చినప్పుడు అదే సిచ్యువేషన్ జరిగింది, దాన్ని సాల్వ్ చేయాలి. సో నేను ఏం చేయాలి? నువ్వు ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేసిన సొల్యూషన్ కరెక్ట్ అయితే నేను అదే ఇక్కడ ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేస్తాను. అది ఇక్కడ ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేయాలంటే ఏం చేయాలి? నేను ముందు ప్రాజెక్ట్లోకి వెళ్ళి అక్కడ ఏం చేశానో చూసుకుంటాను. ముందు ప్రాజెక్ట్లో నేను ఎలా తీసుకురావాలి ఇందులోకి మీకు ఒకసారి చెప్పాను చూసారా? ఇఫ్ ఐ వాంట్ టు గెట్ సమ్ ఫైల్స్ ఇన్ టు దిస్ ప్రాజెక్ట్ ఫ్రమ్ అదర్స్, వాట్ ఐ విల్ ఇంపోర్ట్. ఆల్రెడీ ఎవరైనా రికవరీ సినారియోస్ డెవలప్ చేసుంటే మీకు అదే ఎర్రర్ వస్తుంటే అదే ఎర్రర్ని మీరు ఇక్కడ మళ్ళీ స్క్రాచ్ నుంచి చేయడం కంటే మీరు ముందు ప్రాజెక్ట్లో మీరే చేసేసి ఉంటే మళ్ళీ ఎందుకు టైం వేస్ట్? నాకు ఆల్రెడీ నేనే కదా డెవలప్ చేసింది, కాకపోతే వేరే ప్రాజెక్ట్ కదా, నీకు యాక్సెస్ ఉంటే ఆ ప్రాజెక్ట్ నుంచి ఇంపోర్ట్ చేసుకొని తెచ్చుకొని ఇక్కడ ఇంపోర్ట్ చేసుకో, ఒకసారి రన్ చేసి చూసుకో, వర్క్ అవుతున్నాయా
ఓకే
ఫైన్, వర్క్ అవ్వట్లేదా కొంచెం మాడిఫికేషన్స్ చేసుకుని మళ్ళీ సెట్ చేసుకుని పని చేయాలి అంతే.
ఓకే
ఇంతేనా నీ క్వశ్చన్, లేకపోతే ఇంకేమైనా ఉందా?
అంతేనన్నా, అర్థమైంది నాకు, అర్థమైంది.
Okay, right. Now, moving ahead. This is not completed. It will be completed in 5-10 minutes. If 5-10 minutes kosam, if I stop the class now, again I need to explain it tomorrow again. Now see, we have created fine. Now, as I told you, there is something in the settings. If you see this, when you click on the recovery scenarios, this one, there is something called retry level. Can you see what are these? As I told you, test case, test step value. What are these retry levels? అంటే బేసికలీ ఇప్పుడు ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ మీకు పాపప్ డైలాగ్ బాక్స్ ఏదో ఒకటి వచ్చింది, మీరు దీన్ని హ్యాండిల్ చేశారు బై యూజింగ్ రికవరీ సినారియో. హ్యాండిల్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఇప్పుడు మళ్ళీ మీరు ఏం చేయాలి, మీరు రిజిస్టర్ పైన క్లిక్ చేయాలి కదా. అంటే మీ టెస్ట్ కేస్ ముందుకు వెళ్ళాలి అంటే ఓపెన్ యూఆర్ఎల్ చేసిన తర్వాత రిజిస్టర్ పైన క్లిక్ చేయడానికి ఇది కనిపించట్లేదు, అంటే రిజిస్టర్ పనిచేయట్లేదు, అంటే క్లిక్ ఆన్ రిజిస్టర్ పనిచేయట్లేదు. క్లిక్ ఆన్ రిజిస్టర్ పనిచేయట్లేనప్పుడు మీరు దీన్ని హ్యాండిల్ చేశారు కదా. చేసిన తర్వాత ఇప్పుడు మళ్ళీ మీరు ఏం చేయాలి, మీరు రిజిస్టర్ పైన మళ్ళీ క్లిక్ చేయాలి కదా. మీకు ఎక్కడైతే దెబ్బ తగిలిందో లేచి మళ్ళీ అక్కడే తుడుచుకొని మళ్ళీ ముందుకెళ్తారు. సో మీకు ఇక్కడ ఇష్యూ వచ్చింది, దాన్ని హ్యాండిల్ చేశారు, మీరు మళ్ళీ అదే క్లిక్ చేయాలి. సో మీరు ఏం చేయాలి అంటే మీ టెస్ట్ కేసులో చూడండి, ఇక్కడ యూఆర్ఎల్ ఓపెన్ చేసిన తర్వాత క్లిక్ ఆన్ రిజిస్టర్ పనిచేయట్లేదు. సో మీరు ఇష్యూ సాల్వ్ చేశారు, మళ్ళీ మీరు ఏం చేయాలి, మళ్ళీ క్లిక్ ఆన్ రిజిస్టర్ పైన చేయాలి. సో క్లిక్ ఆన్ రిజిస్టర్ అంటే ఒక టెస్ట్ స్టెప్. సో నేనేం చేస్తానంటే నా రీట్రై లెవెల్ని టెస్ట్ స్టెప్ అని పెడతాను. అంటే ఎక్కడైతే అన్ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ ఎర్రర్స్ అన్ని టెస్ట్ స్టెప్ లెవెల్ మీద వస్తాయో అప్పుడన్నీ నా రికవరీ సినారియోస్ వర్క్ అవుతాయి. మాధవ్ మీకు ఇది ఎలా తెలుసు ఇది టెస్ట్ స్టెప్ అని ఎందుకు పెట్టారంటే బేస్డ్ అపాన్ నా ఎర్రర్. నేను రికవరీ సినారియోస్ డిజైన్ చేయాలన్నా కానీ నా ఎర్రర్ని బేస్ చేసుకుని, నా సిచ్యువేషన్ని బేస్ చేసుకుని డిజైన్ చేస్తాను. అండ్ ఏ లెవెల్లో రీట్రై చేయాలన్నా కానీ నేనే డిసైడ్ చేస్తాను. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇప్పుడు మీరు యూఆర్ఎల్ ఓపెన్ చేశారండి, మీరు ఇక్కడ దాకా రాలేదు, మీరు యూఆర్ఎల్ ఓపెన్ చేశారు, యూఆర్ఎల్ ఓపెన్ చేసిన వెంటనే ఒక పాపప్ వచ్చింది. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ అనుకోండి, యూఆర్ఎల్ ఓపెన్ చేసిన వెంటనే కంప్లీట్ పాపప్ వచ్చి పేజ్ బ్లాక్ అయింది. అప్పుడు మీరు దాన్ని క్లోజ్ చేశారు. క్లోజ్ చేసిన తర్వాత కూడా ఆ పాపప్ యొక్క కంటెంట్స్ ఇంకేవో కొన్ని కనిపిస్తున్నాయి. అప్పుడు ఏం చేస్తారు, యూ విల్ స్టార్ట్ అగైన్ రీట్రై ఎక్కడి నుంచి చేస్తారు, మళ్ళీ యూఆర్ఎల్ ఓపెన్ చేస్తారు క్లోజ్ చేసి. బేసిక్గా మీరు లాస్ట్ స్టెప్లో ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్లో ఉన్నప్పుడు రీట్రై లెవెల్ టెస్ట్ కేస్ పెట్టరు. రీట్రై లెవెల్ టెస్ట్ కేస్ అంటే మళ్ళీ మీ టెస్ట్ కేస్ మొత్తం ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవుతుంది. సింపుల్, మీకు సింపుల్ లాజిక్ చెప్తా. ఇప్పుడు మీరు ఒక టెస్ట్ కేసు ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేస్తున్నారండి, 10 స్టెప్స్ ఉన్నాయి. 10 స్టెప్స్లో మీరు ఫస్ట్ స్టెప్ దగ్గర ఉన్నప్పుడే ఒక అన్ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ ఎర్రర్ వచ్చింది. అప్పుడు మీరు ఎక్కడి నుంచి రీట్రై చేస్తారు, ఈ మెస్ అంతా ఓకే పాపప్లో డైలాగ్ బాక్స్లో హ్యాండిల్ చేసి ఓకే మళ్ళీ స్టార్టింగ్ నుంచి ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేసుకుందాం క్లియర్గా చూసుకోవచ్చు అని చెప్పి మళ్ళీ టెస్ట్ కేసు పెట్టుకోవచ్చు, మీ ఇష్టం. మీరు అప్పుడు ఏం చేయొచ్చు, రీట్రై లెవెల్ అనేది టెస్ట్ కేసు పెట్టండి, అంటే మళ్ళీ టెస్ట్ కేసు మొత్తం రీట్రై చేస్తుంది, రీఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేస్తుంది. అదే మీరు టెస్ట్ స్టెప్ అని పెట్టారనుకోండి, ఏ స్టెప్ అయితే ఎర్రర్ వచ్చిందో ఆ ఒక్క స్టెప్ని మళ్ళీ రీఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేస్తాం, అంతే కదా. ఇప్పుడు మీకు లెఫ్ట్ హ్యాండ్కి దెబ్బ తగిలిందని అక్కడ పట్టారని చెప్పి మీరు బాడీ అంతా కట్లు కట్టుకోరు కదా. సో ఎక్కడైతే దెబ్బ తగిలిందో అక్కడే కట్టుకుంటారు. సో టెస్ట్ స్టెప్ అని పెట్టినప్పుడు ఏ స్టెప్ దగ్గర అయితే ఫెయిల్ అయిందో అదే రీట్రై చేస్తుంది. మీరు టెస్ట్ స్టెప్ వాల్యూ అంటే మీరు చూడండి ఇక్కడ టెస్ట్ స్టెప్ వాల్యూ, ఇవన్నీ వాల్యూస్ కదా. వాల్యూస్ ఎంటర్ చేస్తున్నప్పుడు ఫెయిల్ అయితే మీరు ఏం చేయాలి, మళ్ళీ వాల్యూ ఎంటర్ చేయాలి. సింపుల్, మీరు ఒక పేపర్లో ఏదో ఒక ఇన్పుట్ రాస్తున్నారు, ఒక తప్పు సెంటెన్స్ రాశారు, ఏం చేస్తారు, ఆ వర్డ్స్ రికార్డ్ చేసి మళ్ళీ రాస్తారు, అంతేగాని మొత్తం పేజ్ అంతా మళ్ళీ రాయారు కదా. సింపుల్. సో టెస్ట్ స్టెప్ వాల్యూ మాది ఇవన్నీ మనకి ఎలా డిసైడ్ అవుతాయంటే నేచర్, నా వచ్చిన ఎర్రర్ని బట్టి నేను ఎలా ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేసుకోవాలనేది నేను డిసైడ్ అవుతాను, రైట్. సో ఇట్ ఈస్ మై కన్వీనియన్స్ దిస్ రీట్రై లెవెల్స్, రైట్. ఈజ్ ఇట్ అండర్స్టూడ్ అబౌట్ దిస్ రీట్రై లెవెల్స్?
Yes, ma.
వాట్ అబౌట్ అదర్స్?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
ఎస్. సో డు నాట్ గెట్ కన్ఫ్యూజ్. ఈరోజు చాలా చూశారు మీరు. సో కీప్ ఇట్ వెరీ సింపుల్. వాట్ ఈస్ రికవరీ సినారియోస్, అసలు ఎందుకు యూజ్ చేస్తాము, వై వి విల్ బి యూజింగ్ దట్, యూజ్ చేస్తే ఏమవుతుంది, అవి యూజ్ చేయాలంటే నేను ఏం సెట్టింగ్స్ చేంజ్ చేయాలి, అది ఎక్కడ యూజ్ చేయాలి, ఏ లెవెల్లో క్రియేట్ చేసుకోవచ్చు, క్రియేట్ చేసుకున్న తర్వాత నేను ఎక్కడ రీట్రై చేయాలి. సో ఈ క్వశ్చన్స్కి ఆన్సర్స్ తెలిస్తే చాలు. మీరు క్రియేట్ చేసే రికవరీ సినారియోస్ చాలా సింపుల్. సినారియోస్ చాలా సింపుల్గా ఉంటాయి మీరు చేసే స్టెప్స్. కాకపోతే మీరు ప్రాపర్గా ఇవన్నీ తెలిస్తేనే బాగా వర్కౌట్ అవుతాయి. రైట్? ఫైన్ ఫర్ ఎవ్రీవన్?
Okay, sir.
Yes. Actually, but I can stop the class, but the small concept, I will not take much time, last 5 minutes. What is the time now? It is 8:05, right? I will close the class by 8:10. So what is about the cleanup scenarios? It is very simple. Cleanup scenarios. 5 minutes దీనికంటే ఇంతకంటే ఎక్కువసేపు పట్టదు. Cleanup scenarios. See, basically, what is this cleanup scenarios? I would say as cleanup scenarios are backup to recovery scenarios. సింపుల్. నేను రికవరీ సినారియోస్ ఆర్ బ్యాకప్ టు టెస్ట్ కేసెస్ అన్నా, మళ్ళీ ఇప్పుడు క్లీనప్ సినారియోస్ ఆర్ బ్యాకప్ టు రికవరీ సినారియోస్ అన్నా. అసలు ఎందుకు అంటున్నాను క్లీనప్ సినారియోస్ ఇస్ బ్యాకప్ టు మై రికవరీ సినారియో అంటే, ఇఫ్ ఆర్ రికవరీ సినారియోస్ ఆర్ నాట్ ఎట్ ఆల్ వర్కింగ్, మీరు కష్టపడి ఎంత సెట్టింగ్స్ చేంజ్ చేసి యు ఆర్ క్రియేటింగ్ యువర్ రికవరీ సినారియోస్, బట్ మన అదృష్టం బాగోకపోతే సమ్ పాయింట్ ఆఫ్ ది అదర్ టైమ్ వాట్ ఎవర్ ది రికవరీ సినారియోస్ యూ హ్యావ్ క్రియేటెడ్ ఆర్ నాట్ ఎట్ ఆల్ వర్కింగ్. అంటే పాపప్ కానీ అన్ఎక్స్పెక్టెడ్ ఎర్రర్ కానీ ఇట్ ఈస్ కంప్లీట్లీ బ్లాకింగ్ యువర్ అప్లికేషన్ అండ్ యు ఆర్ నాట్ ఏబుల్ టు ప్రొసీడ్ ఫార్వర్డ్. సో వాట్ హ్యాపెన్స్? అలా వదిలేం కదా. సో cleanup scenarios are a backup to my recovery scenarios, and these cleanup scenarios will come into picture only if my recovery scenarios are failing. It will come into picture only if my recovery scenarios are failing. ఇప్పుడు ఇంకో క్వశ్చన్ అడగచ్చు మీరు, మాధవ్ నా రికవరీ సినారియోస్ ఎప్పుడు ఫెయిల్ అవుతాయంటే, ఫెయిల్ అవ్వకూడదని మనం క్రియేట్ చేస్తున్నాం, కానీ ఫెయిల్ అయితే సో మనం ఏం చేస్తామంటే ముందు జాగ్రత్తతోటి ముందుగానే క్లీనప్ సినారియోస్ కూడా క్రియేట్ చేసి పెట్టుకుంటాం. ఒకవేళ రికవరీ సినారియోస్ వర్క్ అయితే క్లీనప్ సినారియోస్ పని అవసరమే లేదు. ఇన్ కేస్ రికవరీ కూడా ఫెయిల్ అయితే అప్పుడు క్లీనప్ సినారియోస్. రైట్? వాట్ ఈస్ ఎ క్లీనప్ సినారియో దెన్? నేమే చెప్తోంది. క్లీనప్ సినారియో అంటే యు ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు క్లీన్ అప్ ఆల్ ది మెస్ విచ్ ఈస్ క్రియేటెడ్ బై దిస్ రికవరీ సినారియో. అంటే రికవరీ సినారియో ఏం చేస్తుంది? యు ఆర్ ఎగ్జిక్యూటింగ్, రైట్? ఈ టెస్ట్ స్టెప్ మీరు రిఫ్రెష్ చేస్తున్నారు, ఎంటర్ చేస్తున్నారు, లేకపోతే ఎస్కేప్ చేస్తున్నారు, స్కాన్, ఇవన్నీ పని చేయకపోతే మాడ్యూల్ అయినా స్కాన్ చేసి క్లిక్ చేస్తారు. ఇవి వర్కౌట్ లేదు. ఏం చేస్తారు? క్లీనప్ సినారియో క్రియేట్ చేస్తారు. సో వాట్ యూ నీడ్ టు డూ? సింపుల్ థింగ్. You are going to clean up the mess created by this recovery scenario so that your next test case execution will happen properly. అది చేయాలంటే ఏంటి? క్లీనప్ సినారియో నేమే ఇట్ సెల్ఫ్ చెప్తుంది కదా. అండ్ యూ నీడ్ టు రిమెంబర్, యాజ్ దిస్ క్లీనప్ సినారియో ఇస్ ఎ బ్యాకప్ టు రికవరీ సినారియో, ఐ విల్ ఆల్వేస్ క్రియేట్ మై క్లీనప్ సినారియో అండర్ ద రికవరీ సినారియో. మీరు చూడండి ఇక్కడ రైట్ క్లిక్ చేసినప్పుడు ఈ రికవరీ సినారియో క్లియర్ చేశాను, దాని పక్కనే చూడండి create cleanup scenario. So always your recovery scenario and cleanup scenario goes hand in hand, right? ఇది చేస్తారు. ఇది అవ్వకపోతే క్లీనప్ సినారియో. క్లీనప్ సినారియోలు ఏముంటాయి మనం ఆల్రెడీ చూసాం కదా చాలా టెస్ట్ కేసెస్ బెస్ట్ ప్రాక్టీసెస్ లో. పోస్ట్ కండిషను, ప్రీ కండిషను, క్లోజ్ ది బ్రౌజర్, అంతే కదండి. ఇప్పుడు రికవరీ సినారియో ఆ టెస్ట్ కేస్ క్రియేట్ చేసిన మెస్ ని క్లీన్ చేస్తే నెక్స్ట్ టెస్ట్ కేస్ ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్ స్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది క్లియర్ గా. మీరు చూడండి ఇవన్నీ ఎందుకు చేసాం? మన నెక్స్ట్ టెస్ట్ కేస్ ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్ ప్రాపర్ గా స్టార్ట్ అవడానికి. ఒకవేళ ఉన్నా లేకపోయినా వర్క్ అవ్వకపోతే ఏం చేస్తాం మనము? క్యాచీ క్లియర్ చేసి దాని తర్వాత బ్రౌజర్ ని క్లోజ్ చేస్తాము. మన ఇష్టం, మనం ఏమైనా చేస్తాం కదా. సో ఐఎమ్ జస్ట్ ప్లేసింగ్ దీస్ స్టెప్స్. Simple. My recovery scenarios is also a group or collection of test steps, right, which is used to clean up the mess created by this recovery scenarios. And my cleanup scenarios will come into picture only when my recovery scenario is failing. ఇక్కడ నేను 4 టెస్ట్ స్టెప్స్ పెట్టాను, 4 అవసరం లేదు. బేసిక్గా మీరు ఏది యూజ్ చేయాలనుకుంటే అది యూజ్ చేయొచ్చు ప్రాజెక్ట్లో. మనం అప్పుడైతే డిఫరెంట్ వేస్, మీకు అదే చెప్పాను, ఇవన్నీ డిఫరెంట్ వేస్ చూపిస్తున్నాను. మీరు బ్రౌజర్ క్లోజ్ చేయాలంటే ఇది యూజ్ చేయొచ్చు, షార్ట్ కట్ కంట్రోల్ డబ్ల్యూ. క్లోజ్ బ్రౌజర్కి ఇది ఒక స్టాండర్డ్ మాడ్యూల్. విండో ఆపరేషన్ యూజ్ చేసి కూడా క్లోజ్ చేయొచ్చు. టీబాక్స్ స్టాక్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ యూజ్ చేసి కూడా మీరు ప్రాసెస్ని కిల్ చేయొచ్చు బ్రౌజర్ది. సో ఇట్ ఈస్ అప్ టు యువర్ కన్వీనియన్స్. సో it is also a group or collection of test steps which will be executed by TOSCA when my recovery scenarios are getting failed, and it is a backup to my recovery scenario. This is about a cleanup scenario. Is it understood for everyone?
Yes, Madhav.
Any doubts in this to anyone? అర్థమైందా? అందరు సైలెంట్ లో ఉన్నారు. అర్థమైందా? అర్థం కాలేదా?
Yes, madam.
Yes, sir. Understand.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm just stopping the recording.